All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Book Club. We are going through Magic of Thinking Big, and we are going through chapters 10 and 11 tonight. This is Kristen, and I'm Natalie. And we decided we would just kind of break it up into chapters. I'll take one, she'll take one. So I'm just going to dive right in since we got started a couple minutes late. But chapter 10, Get the Action Habit. I love this chapter because this is something that I feel like I've said this about every chapter in this book, but this is something I've really been trying to lean into and be intentional about. And we've been talking about this a lot with our team about taking action on things. And I loved, they were talking about, just to kind of go through the chapter really quick. He's talking about, CEOs and big people and companies they can hear people talk a really good talk, but at the end of the day, they want to know, will they do the job? Will they actually follow through? Is he a self-starter? And when it said, will he follow through? That kind of got me a little bit, because one thing since Ruby Retreat that I realized, I'm really terrible at follow through. I have a lot of great ideas and I'll start to implement them, but I'm really bad at the follow through and making sure that they're actually happening. So they're not really being implemented. They're being put out there, but they're not being implemented. So follow through is something that I'm working on too. Excellent ideas are not enough. An only fair idea acted upon and developed is 100% better than a terrific idea that dies because it isn't followed up. And then he talks about the Mr. Passivationist versus Mr. Activationist. And I love that, because I think when we're thinking about these things, we're talking about big things like building a business, and we're thinking that, they're too lazy to do things, or it's things that they don't want to do. And it's not even that, it's really just a mindset and a personality thing. Because he even talks about Mr. Activationist plans a vacation. He takes it. Mr. Passivationist plans a vacation, but he postpones it until next year. So it's not even just about, putting off the things that you don't want to do. It's there's a lot of things that we want to do and that we really need for ourselves and need for our families or whatever, but because we don't take action on it, they never happen. And I see this a lot, and a lot of times it turns into a victim mentality. A lot of the people that you see that aren't successful end up, they're also the ones that aren't taking the vacations, and they're not giving themselves time to it's funny, with time blocking, for instance. Time blocking is something that you have to take action on. You can say all day long, I'm going to time block, I'm going to time block, I'm going to time block, but until you take the time block, it's just an idea and you're not really getting anywhere with it. So I think it's really interesting to see where that tends to follow through. And I see, like I said, I see that result a lot of times being a victim mentality of well, I just don't get vacations, or I don't get to do what they do. And it's has nothing to do with any of that. It's just that those people put into action. They take, they budget it, they save the money for it, they plan the vacation and they go for it. I don't know if you guys have where you want to go to lunch with somebody. And I've gotten to a place where I'm okay, let's go to lunch and let's put it on the calendar right now, because if we go, oh, we should go to lunch, and then we never do, it never goes on the calendar. It's not happening. We all know that. So take action, put it on the calendar right that second, so that that's happening. And then when you go to put something in your calendar for that day, you've got that lunch and you're not planning around it. So, and that's something I have worked really hard on myself personally, is making sure that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And trying to get it off my brain right there. And I've noticed that my brain is a lot less cluttered when I think of something that I need to do, and I just go do it right then and get it off my plate, instead of just my brain, being filled up with all of this stuff. I think it's both, this is something I feel like could be both a mindset and a skill, time blocking and putting things into action or whatever. It is a skill that can be sharpened. If it wasn't a skill, you couldn't get better at it necessarily. And I think there's a lot of people, myself for one, that has really gotten better at being able to sharpen the skill of intentionality and taking action. But it's also a mindset. It is a huge mindset shift for you to realize that things aren't just going to magically happen. You have to get into the mindset of putting things into action and going forward with it. And so it's both a mindset and a skill. Let's see, he talked about perfection versus progress. A lot of passivationists got that way because they insisted on waiting until everything was 100% perfect 100% favorable before they took action. Perfection is highly desirable, but nothing man-made or man-designed is or can be absolutely perfect. So to wait for the perfect set of conditions is to wait forever. And I know that has paralyzed me in a lot of situations where I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that until I know I can do it perfectly. Well, that's not going to happen just sitting and waiting on it. Like what's waiting in the meantime, what's going to change? How is it going to make it perfect later on? Like nothing's getting easier. It's not like I'm getting more time in the day later on or anything like that's not it. You just have to move forward with it and cross the bridge when you get there on something that may not be perfect. Either, move forward and learn from it and perfect it next time. Or if something's not going to be perfect, cross that bridge when you get there and work on ways that you can make it excellent moving forward. Your standards can be too high. I love that he said that too. Let's see, skip ahead a little bit here. I loved when he's talking about the 2 things to help you avoid the costly mistake of waiting until conditions are perfect before you act. Expect future obstacles and difficulties. Just expect them so you're not thrown off. When you do put things into action and you are hit with an obstacle, it's fine. You expected this. And we were just talking about this with our team is not only expect them, but also not look forward to them, but look forward at them to be able to notice and recognize what they may be. Anticipate them. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. Anticipate them and be able to put things into action that will help those things to be from being, oh my gosh, I cannot talk. You know what I'm trying to say. I literally just said this on our team huddle before this. Put things into motion so that those things cannot be a distraction when they do come up, basically. So be able to foresee the obstacles and the failures that may happen down the road. Okay, if I do this, what are the obstacles that may come up? Okay, so what are some things I can put in place to prevent that obstacle from coming up or prevent that thing from distracting me or whatever? That's a way that you can start taking action, is even just putting those markers in place. Meet problems and obstacles as they arise. The test of a successful person is not the ability to eliminate all problems before he takes action, but rather the ability to find solutions to difficulties when he does encounter them. So you may not have a solution for all those obstacles, but still move forward, still take action and cross that bridge when you get there.
I put that quote here in my notes. And I just, quick little side note, I feel like it reminds me of God didn't promise us that there will be no storms. We hear that a lot, I feel like, in, church, and, pastors say it a lot, but he didn't promise us that there's not going to be any storms. He just promised that he will be with us and that through those storms, we can have the fruits of the Spirit, right? So we just have to put our trust in him. So I don't know, I kind of related those 2 things. It's not that there's never going to, a successful person is not just somebody that never had any obstacles. No, that it was what they did with those obstacles. And I kind of was comparing, when you're taking no action, out of perfectionism, is that because there's a lack of faith? I don't know, that kind of relating those 2, challenged me a little bit. Is that if you're feeling yourself stall out and have, feel like you are not taking action because I deal with this. This is definitely something that I deal with, which is perfectionism, and feeling like I'm not taking action. And is that because of a lack of faith?
Yeah, it's good. All right. So I underlined a lot of things in this chapter, honestly. So I'm just going to touch on the 2 things that big ones that stuck out to me that I've left. And then I'm going to let Kristen run with 11 and then we can open it up. I loved when he was talking about the paratrooper and how the jump really isn't that bad. It's the anticipation, and people psych themselves out before they even jump. And I love that because I've been skydiving. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I will do all of it. I'll bungee jump, I'll skydive, and I've done all of it. And I've had a lot of people ask, how in the world can you do that stuff? And I was like, I think I just don't think about it. When we were taking the plane up, it was beautiful. We were going skydiving over Oahu, and all I could think about was how nobody, a lot of people don't get this opportunity. Even if they get to skydive, it's not over Oahu. So I was just thinking about that and getting excited about it. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about how I was going to jump or what the jump was going to be like or whatever. And when we got to the door, I remember that we walked up and I just was I'm just going to keep going when we get to the door, because if I stop, I'm not going to go. And we just walked and I just jumped right out. And he was like, I've never seen anyone jump that. And I was like, I just knew I wouldn't do it if I didn't just go. And so that's the secret, I think, to skydiving and all that stuff, is you have to not overthink it. You just have to do it. And I tell my daughter this all the time when she's trying to do something scary. I'm like, you think about it way too much. You need to just do it. Just go and have it act like I guess if you hit the ground, you hit the ground. But no, skydiving is a bad example for that one. But I mean, it's such a big thing. I mean, That's the thing though, is like, if you think about it too much, you start thinking all the negative thoughts. And he even said that, like, with the professor, he let his mind grow negative thoughts. He visualized the tremendous work and sacrifices that would be involved. He saw all sorts of reasons why the project would fail. It's like, if you put too much thinking into it, all of a sudden your mind just starts filling up with these negative thoughts, because your brain goes to work to protect you. And we've said this before, it will always try to protect you and keep you from feeling failure or anything like that. So if there's any reason that you may fail, your brain's going to try and protect you and guard you from that. So you just have to take action and move forward with it.
All I could hear was Emily's voice when I was reading that part.
Yeah.
And Emily was right. I feel like last week when she said like he was kind of ahead of his time, you know, being able to speak to that in such an eloquent way.
Yep. And last, like the take action thing, my husband, honestly, we fight on this all the time because my husband is the biggest, like, I'm like, I have a great idea. Let's do this. And today we need to run to Costco. We need to grab this stuff. We got to get grocery shopping done. And he's like, okay, why don't we do that? And then tomorrow we'll work on this. And he's so much of and he's a take action guy with most things, but he's such a, let's do this tomorrow. Let's talk about it tomorrow. And I'm always like, no, why put things off that I can just do today and get it off my brain?
Action girl, y'all.
I really am. And
this is her chapter.
This is my chapter, because I am like, I cannot have things sitting on my brain. And if I have to just get them done. We were doing my daughter's room last week and there was electrical that needed to be run. And I'm like, I'll just do it. And I didn't even think about it. I just pulled up a YouTube video, went and bought the stuff from Home Depot, and I ran my own electrical. I've never done it before in my life. So, but like, you just got to take action on these things and get it done, because if you don't, you will sit on it forever.
So true. So good. Okay, we'll quickly go through chapter 11 real quick. I know we got started late. So how to turn defeat into victory. I loved this chapter. I wrote down just a few notes here, but page 237, where he said, you know, he was talking about the man that was successful in his business and that it took him 7 years to be successful. And it reminded me a lot of, you know, what we do here and how that seems to be, you know, 5 to 7 years to hit that top rank is not uncommon at all. But I loved the quote where it said, he was talking to the man and he said, it's not taking something out of me. He asked him, you know, man, that must've been taking a lot out of you. And he said, no, it's not taking something out of me. It's putting something in me.
That's good.
And I mean, that was to me, I just wrote, wow, you know, like what a good perspective shift to really think about, like, okay, all the, you know, trials and the obstacles that we are going through and the defeat that we are, you know, experiencing in this time is not taking things out of us. No, it's putting stuff in us. It's depositing things that we're going to need to know and things that we're going to be able to use in the future to build this successful business.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love that. Yep. What Leo's saying, like he's depositing things into our character, you know, it's building character. And then it went on in 242, defeat is only a state of mind, nothing more. I mean, kind of speaks for itself, but it just puts things into perspective that you're in control of that, you know, like we're in control. Like when we're going through something that's defeating to us, it's just a state of mind. Like we can literally just move on from it. And then I love where he says, you know, quickly after that, salvage something from every setback. So if you can have the mindset of, you know, learning something from everything, kind of the same thing, you know, putting something in me, it's what did I learn from this? What did this deposit in me through this trial is just the mindset to have. And then, let's see, where he was talking on 244, he started talking about being constructively self-critical. And this I thought was good because, you know, some of this stuff is personality thing. Like Natalie's a very take action person. I tend to be one that's going to stew over things more like David and, you know, take more methodical action, but maybe over a period of time where sometimes it gets to be procrastination. But you know, this to me is a little bit of like a personality thing where we are, you know, I tend to be more self-critical as a one, trying to be perfect. Like self-criticism is pretty natural to me, always looking ways to assess and be better. But I thought this was important that he said you need to be constructive. This is not just a beat yourself up session, you know, like we shouldn't just be beating ourselves up constantly. No, we should be doing it with a purpose. We should be constructive whenever we are being critical of ourselves. You know, not thinking, here's another reason I'm a loser. Here's another way to make me a bigger winner.
Yeah.
And then he says, we must have persistence, but we also must combine it. I thought this was very, very interesting. Having persistence is not enough, right? We always say the only way you don't win in this business, the only way you don't make it to the top is if you don't quit. And I feel like this kind of adds that little extra factor there. Yes, that's true, but also it's going to require some experimentation. You can't just keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting this, different results. Like you have to be willing to experiment and learn from your mistakes and then take action in a new, direction that is going to produce results. So yeah, I think that's all I got if we want to open it up.
That was your chapter.
That was chapter 11 for sure. Anybody got anything specific?
Be coachable, yeah.
I've been thinking about the personality differences, kind of like what you guys were saying too, because my husband and I had a couple conversations this week where he's a 5. So if you know the Enneagram, he like stews and thinks about things. And I'm an 8. So I'm just like, I don't think about it. I'm like, Natalie, like, all right, let's just do it, but I think it's interesting. Like you can take your Enneagram or your personality or whatever and like make that as an excuse. Like we say that a lot, right? So it's like, oh, I'm a 5, I'm a processor, whatever. But I think it's interesting, like as you study the Enneagram, a 5 will go to an 8 in strength, or as they grow, they'll take on more tendencies of an 8, which is more like action oriented or whatever. So I think it's important to know, like, even if you feel like you're struggling with being like deliberate and like taking action on things, you can grow into that. It's not just necessarily a personality thing. Like you can grow into that. And that comes through personal growth, and then it comes through practice too. And I think a lot of times we think like when you're making or taking action on things that it's got to be like these big things that you're taking action on, but just like in your day-to-day, like just simple little things and just making yourself shorten that time frame and just like, whoop, I'm going to do it like right now. That's going to build your confidence and make so that you are an action-oriented person. And so over time it gets better. So that's just something I was thinking about. Don't let that be your scapegoat. Just because you might naturally be more of a stewer, you can definitely grow into that.
On that same note, 1s go to 7, which I'm a 1 and she's a 7. So I think it's probably, I don't know all of the ins and outs of every number, but I think there's probably a lot of truth to that probably across the board. Like a healthy 1 is going to act more like a 7. So yeah, this is all skill set. That's the cool thing. You're not locked into any of this personality thing. And this reminds me of Natalie Dolan's whole thing, like identity is not fixed. Like we're not trees.
Yeah.
Like we can grow and develop and acquire skill sets. Love that.
Yep. Good, Leah.
I like that we're talking about all of this because this is kind of where I'm at. I'm hiding in my kitchen from everybody. But that's like where I'm at right now. I think for like a while, like my first month, I was like so excited. I got to fast start silver and I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then all of a sudden everyone quit on me. And for the past like 5 months, I've had no one enroll, and I have not stopped posting. I haven't stopped reaching out, but I stopped reaching out as much and I just wasn't as consistent with the work that I was doing. And I just had a great conversation with Jen not too long ago. And we were talking about, what I want to work on, what my goals are. And I was like, I want to speak with more confidence when I share in, team calls or book club or anything. I want to be able to host a gut health chat and not be so scared that I'm going to mess it up that I don't do it, and that's kind of what happened. We talked about doing a gut health chat and I was like, okay, I'm just like, I don't feel like I'm ready yet, but we all go to that point in our life, like we get there, we get down on ourselves like, oh, no one's really listening and no one cares what I have to think. But it's like, okay, I can sit there and think that for like 5 minutes and then I have to get up and start doing something. And, you just don't stop. You keep moving and you just keep doing things. And so with my reach outs, like since I wasn't being consistent, I was like, okay, you know what I'm going to do every single day? I'm going to do 1 reach out and then I'm going to work my way up to 2, 3. And I did 3 reach outs today. So I'm very proud of myself for that. And I'm not rushing anything like I would normally do. I'm like so hard on myself. I'm like, I have to do everything now. And, so I love that this is like so like relatable for me right now where I'm at is like I'm growing and I'm growing into myself and becoming that, more confident person. And, this is what I love to do. I believe in the products. I believe in our team. I believe in, I believe deep down that I really truly want to help people. And so why am I not doing anything about it? Why am I not doing as much as I could do about it? So, once you sit down and ask yourself, those questions, then you can start moving forward in your life and making those actions and, doing the things that make you feel good. And you're sharing with people something that can literally change their entire life. And I know when Rochelle got me into this, I was like super skeptical, but because of her, I'm here with all of you. And I'm so grateful for that. And it's really helped me grow so much as a person. So yeah, I just have a ton of gratitude for this company and for everyone who I just get to work with every day. So
Well, Lauren, we love having you on the team. And I'll say, like, I love that you touched on what he talks about on 221, where he says use action to cure fear and gain confidence. Like, the biggest way that you can overcome fear is action. We say that a lot. It's like, if you're fearful of like what this looks like, or, people aren't joining your or whatever, like, put things into action. That's going to be the biggest thing to overcome fear. And it sounds like you're really honing in on that. So that's good. I also wrote down in here on one of these pages about the thought model. And I don't know if you guys have looked into that at all, but a lot of this really helps you to like take action on things. And if you haven't, ask your sponsor about the thought model. You should look at it, but it basically talks about, and you kind of touched on it, Lauren, too, where it's like, nobody's joining my team. So that's your thought. So what feeling comes with that? Well, it makes me feel like, I don't know what your feeling was, but like, maybe I'm not worth something. And then, the action that comes from that is you do less reach outs because you're not worthy of it. And then the results is now nobody's joining your team. Right. So where you can flip the script on that. And the thought now is like, well, hey, I need to learn how to attract people to join my team. And then like it brings on motivation. And then the action behind that is you start reaching out to more people. And then the result is usually more people joining your team. So it's like the thought model a little bit kind of plays into this a little bit as well with taking action. It's just flipping your thoughts.
Mhm. It reminds me of page 224, where it was talking about action must precede action. So the action that we want is to get a bunch of people on our team. But for that to be happening, you have to be in action. You have to be in motion, doing the reach outs, doing your posting, doing, your IPA.
Yep.
And you can't wait till you're inspired or you're motivated. You have to do it, out of habit and out of, just, you have to do it. You have to be the one that initiates.
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to be inspired or motivated.
Good. Yeah. Discipline.
Mhm.
Discipline's a huge part of it.
I was going to comment on that quote. I think that's reading that made me think about, I wrote down like positive affirmations in my book there, because a lot of times we talk about doing those or even doing before you get into action. And that's just, just one example of others, like, before, if you're putting off doing something, just doing something first. So whether that's, if you say your positive affirmations and that gets you into action to then get into action, or I thought of Atomic Habits. We just got off of that book with Atomic Habits, and, you build on one action after the other, one habit after the other. So if, utilize those tools. If you haven't read that book, read the book, but you build on, the habit stacking, build on one habit after another, and then it's much easier to just get going. So if you have the thought, just capturing that, realize and think, okay, what can I do now just to get moving? It's okay. You hit the nail on the head there, Kristen. It's okay if you're not motivated to do it. And in fact, there's a lot of people who are not motivated, but what's going to separate the successful people from the mediocre, like he says in this book, is whether you do it, whether you're motivated or not. Right. I mean, it's easy to work. It's easy to win your day if you feel motivated. But what about the days when you're not motivated? That's when it's not easy. And that's when you have to do it anyway. That's when you have to just do something to get into action. And it's okay if you don't feel like you're giving it your best sometimes, or you don't feel inspired by like, well, I don't know exactly, like I'm probably not doing my best work, my post. It's probably not the best post, but hey, I'm getting something up there, whatever it is, that is better than nothing. And even getting into that action is going to probably maybe even get into a mode of being more inspired so that you can produce better results, right? He talks about that in the book as well. So just really great things to take action on now and to take away from this book, in terms of what you need to habit stack, what you need to do to just get the needle moving.
Mhm.
Yeah, this has definitely helped me because I think one of my things, it's not even so much perfectionism as much as just overwhelm. Like when something gets to feel like where I can't go and completely finish a task because it's too overwhelming, it's going to take too much of my time, then I just find myself being more and more, I'll procrastinate it even more and longer. And so like, this has been helping me in that regard, like even just the last few days, like my closet was starting to get out of control, like we got home from a trip and the bags were on the floor, and then, you don't put your clothes away another week, and soon enough it's overwhelming. So it was like, okay, I'm going to take everything out and put it on. Like yesterday, I did not really have time to do it, but taking everything out of my closet and putting it across the tub, like I had my suitcase, I had the clothes that needed to be put away, I had like another stack of stuff that I had cluttered up, and I was like, okay, every time I come in here, I'm going to start putting a few of these things away, and I just was able to kind of build on it. And that is not like my personality. I'm more of like a person like, oh, I'm going to go do this project and finish it completely to all or nothing. Yeah. And this has really helped me to be like, it's okay, because I actually got it done. Like now that part, all that stuff, I couldn't stand it sitting on my bathtub. So, that did get done. It took a day, but I told JP, I'm like, listen, this is going to look like this for a little bit, but I promise you I'm going to get it done. And that was actually helpful with the accountability, so I think maybe that helps some of y'all too. Like, if you're an all or nothing personality, the habit stacking and the, atomic habits and all of this that we're learning, I think is really helpful. It's okay. Take a little bit of action, and that actually will inspire you to take more action, like it's action precedes action.
Mhm. Good.
Like on 244, she was talking about he have the courage to face your faults. And we talked about this a little bit in just like a little chat the other day. Just that, and I was sharing, like, I feel like this business is more and more and more. And sometimes it's like, that's enough to work on right now. But like I'm grateful, but it's, it's like you want to have the courage to face your faults and to like do something about them. Like I want to face them, but then I also can't let it freeze me or create more fears from like trying to face them or dig them up. It's like, there's things there. Like if things aren't working and you have to figure out like what's happening, what am I not doing right? So yeah, just like learning to press into that and not be fearful of realizing our own faults and being open to constructive criticism on that, and working on those things. And then a little further down the page where she says facing her faults not only helped her to succeed on stage, but also helped her win more friends and develop a more pleasing personality. And just how the business carries over into our other like home realm and churches and schools and stuff. And then finally, a little bit later on that page, blaming others is destructive. You absolutely gain nothing from proving that someone else is wrong. So I feel like so many times when faults come up, it's easy to, just blame whoever the closest person. Well, I could do that better if my kids weren't doing this, or I could do that if my husband would do this part, or our team could do better with this if she would do that, like, and just deflecting all the time. So just a lot of good self-checking in this chapter.
Mhm.
I was going to say the same kind of, this goes right along with what Amanda's saying, but where they gave the reference of, well, that's just the way the ball bounces. And instead of making the same mistakes over and over again, to actually sit back and really assess, I think that's it, like, right, self-assessment. What is holding me back? What are my setbacks? Like, where is the gap? What can I fix? What can I change? But just that, like, self-awareness, instead of just staying stuck and doing the same thing over and over again and never getting ahead. And that kind of goes along with what Amanda was just saying, but.
Yeah, I liked that too, because I think a lot of times we can, with our business, and I've been guilty of this before, but like, man, I'm just in a dry season, or, I'm doing the things, but I'm just in a, we can, like, almost as if it's luck, as if it's just however it happens, but it usually almost always goes back to one of the pillars of, leadership or retention, like all those, it goes back to one of those pillars. And where am I falling short? Because there's a definite physical law here at play, not just, luck. There's always something I can fix. It's good.
I think also it's all in how you respond to that, like how on 236 he says how Mr. Skid Row, Mr. Mediocre, and Mr. Success are pretty much all matching except for how they respond to defeat. So you could respond to that and just say, well, guess that's the way it is. Or you can respond to that and say, no, this is how I'm going to fix this, and dig deeper. We always talk about digging deeper into things. So digging deeper into that and saying, okay, well, now how am I going to change this? How am I going to make this better?
Yeah. It's good. Lately, I've been doing, I don't know if any of you guys have seen Frozen 2. I have 4 girls, so we've seen it 4 million times a week. But Anna has that song in there where she sings like "Do the next right thing," and I don't know why, but that's been like stuck in my head for like a month, and I keep like singing it to myself when I'm trying to basically habit stack. So I got into a really bad habit of basically not washing my face and turning on the TV until I fall asleep into oblivion every night. And I'm like, this is not how I want to go to sleep. I want to like get into a routine. So I started literally like every time I'd have it, I'm like, okay, what's the next right thing? Do the next right thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go wash my face. Okay, what's the next right thing? I'm going to do my moisturizer. What's the next? And it's so silly because my personality, like last year, would have never done things this way, but because I've leaned into growth, I guess, enough. That's just what I keep telling myself. And I've been waking up every morning. Okay, what's the next right thing to do? What's the next right thing to do? If I'm not feeling like working, what's the first right thing to do? Okay, I'm going to go into my office. What's the next right thing to do? Okay, I'm going to open my computer. What's the next right? And just kind of like, what's the next right thing? And just kind of moving forward in that. And so it's kind of a silly little thing, but it's been stuck in my head for like a month. I've got Anna singing in my head every day, and that's what's moving me forward.
That's amazing. Love it.
So you've heard this song, but have you listened to like the actual like lyrics like all the way through? Because it's honestly like a really good song. And
Yes.
And seriously, like it's not a bad song to have stuck in your head when you're doing your IPA and stuff. Like, and you can definitely apply that song to your daily life. But all of this is so good. I think that, just asking yourself questions, and like I saw this thing about like ask yourself why, like, and how people get like annoyed, like, oh, my toddler will never stop asking me why. And so many parents like won't really answer the why questions for them and just kind of brush them off. But like, why do you do that? Because the more you ask yourself why, the deeper you get into the things that you really like need to change, or better yourself in. Like, okay, why didn't I do the dishes today? Because I didn't feel like it. Why didn't I feel like it? Because I don't know. There's no excuse. You just get up and do it, and you just keep asking yourself why until you get to like the root of like what the issue actually is. Like for me, like I think dishes is like the number one thing that I definitely slack on, but that comes from like having to do dishes so much as a kid, and like it was like punishment, you know? So like to me it's like punishment, but now I'm like learning that it's not a punishment to do the dishes. It's a punishment to not do the dishes, because then I have more dishes that pile up and pile up, and then I'm never going to get them done. And then people are going to come over to my house and see that I have dishes in the sink, and then I'm going to feel really bad that like I live like that, you know, like, so that's just like a basic example, but you know, just always ask yourself why are you doing things, or why are you not doing things? And it's helped me a lot. And so I think I'd like to pass that on.
That's good, Lauren.
I like
Thanks for
it.
sharing that. All right, does anyone else have any thoughts on these two chapters? All right, going once, going twice. All right, we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. Yes, go wash your face. I'm gonna go wash my face. I might get a whole shower, I don't know. All right, well, thank you guys. We love meeting with y'all. Go take some action, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.